Sanders is hoping to pull off another come-from-behind victory. We've seen it before. We may see it again. However, the New York Post says that Clinton may be nervous about that, too, putting on its cover that she is feeling the burn, again, as her adopted home state goes to the polls. Nancy Cordes is where Hillary Clinton voted this morning in Chappaqua, New York. Nancy, we appreciate the time. How concerned is the Clinton campaign about seeing a repeat of, let's say, what happened in Michigan, where Sanders was down roughly 10 points in the polls there, but then came from behind and pulled out the upset win?
They're probably a little bit less concerned than they were in Michigan, Josh, to be honest with you. They like to play it coy and imply that they're very worried that Sanders could catch up, but mostly that's for the benefit of their supporters. They want to make sure that people don't get complacent and stay home the way that they feel many of her backers did in Michigan, and she ended up with that surprise loss. So here in New York, they are downplaying expectations. They don't really mind a cover like that on the New York Post, as unflattering as you might think it is, because it reminds her supporters of how high the stakes are here. She did just come to vote with her husband a short time ago. There was a big hometown crowd here to greet them, and they stopped and sort of shot the breeze with their neighbors for quite a while after voting. In fact, at one point there were so many reporters and well-wishers crowded around Clinton as she cast her ballot that she joked, "Hey people, this is a private ballot, all right? Don't look over my shoulder." I asked President Bill Clinton twice who he voted for. I think it's safe to say he voted for his wife, but he wasn't saying, and he spent a lot of time talking to the well-wishers and a little bit less time talking to the press. At one point, I did ask him if he thinks that a win here in New York would change the race, and perhaps acknowledging what a long slog this race has become, Josh. He said, yeah, it means we're one step closer to the end.
Which they think, at least in theory, they can see now. You were also the only reporter who got to ask the former secretary a question as well, how it felt to cast her own ballot. We want to take a listen to her answer.
It feels great, and I am so excited about both campaigning here in New York, voting here in New York, and I love New York, and this has been a joy during the last 2 weeks to be here all over the state, and I hope everybody gets out to vote. I had a great time going around the city in the last couple of days, just seeing a lot of old friends, meeting new people, and I just urge everybody, please come out and vote before 9 p.m. tonight.
You can hear it in her voice, Nancy, perhaps the ravages of this long campaign, and also the perhaps acknowledging the early hour of the day. But, we've talked about this before, this idea of Hillary Clinton's interest in pivoting to the general election. Do you have a sense that they want this to be, if not mathematically wrapped up in terms of optics today?
The problem for them, Josh, is that even if she wins overwhelmingly, Bernie Sanders has already made it clear he isn't going anywhere. He is going to continue to dog her. He's going to continue to talk about the issues that he cares about. He's going to continue to contrast their records. He'll bring up her vote for the Iraq War. He'll bring up differences between them on campaign finance and on the minimum wage. And he said he's going to stay in the race all the way through the end of the primaries, if not to the convention. Math be darned. And so, Clinton can get a major step closer to the nomination after the New York race. There are 250 delegates up for grabs in this state. So it's a big prize, but there are 5 more states next week. Sanders feels that he's got a good shot in the biggest of those states, Pennsylvania. And so he is not going to allow her to make that pivot that she would otherwise make, where she simply focuses on Donald Trump. She can't take her eye off the rearview mirror.
A big day in New York has begun for the candidate and for you, Nancy. We appreciate the time.
Sure thing.